The grocery store is lying to you with shrinkflation. You're standing in the cereal aisle. You grab the same box of Cheerios you've been buying for years. Same price on the shelf, $8.99. You bring it home, pour a bowl, and something feels wrong. The bowl looks less full. The box feels lighter. You think you're imagining it. Maybe you're just hungrier today. But then you look at the box. Where it used to say 19 ounces, it now says 16. The box is the same size. The price is the same, but you're getting 3 ounces less cereal. That's 15% less product for the same money. That's a 15% price increase, except they didn't raise the price. They lowered the amount, and they didn't tell you. This is shrinkflation, and it's happening to almost everything you buy. Today I'm going to show you exactly which products have shrunk, how much you're really paying in hidden price increases, why companies do this instead of just raising prices honestly, and why the official inflation numbers the government reports are complete lies. You're not imagining that groceries feel more expensive. They are. Way more expensive than anyone admits. And the stores are lying to your face about it. Let me tell you about what happened to Emily last month. She does the grocery shopping for her family of 4. She has a strict budget, tracks everything, uses the same list every week. Same store, same brands, trying to keep costs down. Over the last year, her grocery bill went from $350 a week to $470. That's $120 more per week. She didn't change what she buys. She didn't start buying premium brands. She's buying the exact same items. When she asked herself what changed, she assumed the prices went up. But when she checked her receipts from last year versus this year, the prices were almost the same. Bread, still $3.49. Milk, still $4.99. Peanut butter, still $7.99. So why is she spending $120 more per week? Because she's getting less. The bread is 14 ounces now instead of 16. The milk is still a gallon, but the gallon size has been creeping down. Stores now sell 3/4 gallon containers that look the same size. The peanut butter went from 18 ounces to 16. Same jar design, same price, less product. She's having to buy more to get the same amount. What used to be 1 jar of peanut butter per week is now 1.125 jars. What used to be 2 gallons of milk is now 2.3. She's buying more units at the same per unit price to get the same amount of actual product. That's where the $120 went, hidden in ounce reductions. And here's what makes it evil. The packages are designed to hide the shrinkage. The bread bag is the same size with more air. The cereal box is the same height with a thicker plastic liner that takes up space. The toilet paper roll is the same diameter, but the cardboard tube in the middle is larger, so there's less paper. The potato chip bag is the same size, but it's 60% air and 40% chips instead of 50-50. Companies call this slack fill. Consumer advocates call it fraud. Either way, you're being lied to every time you shop. Emily isn't imagining this. You're not imagining this. When you feel like your grocery budget doesn't stretch as far, when you feel like you're buying the same things but running out faster, when you feel like something changed but you can't quite put your finger on it, you're right. Shrinkflation is real. It's accelerating. And it's a deliberate strategy by food companies to raise prices without you noticing. Because they know if they raise the price from $8.99 to $10.34 on that cereal box, you'd notice. You'd be angry. You might switch brands. But if they keep it at $8.99 and just give you less, your brain doesn't immediately register the change. You notice slowly over months that things don't last as long. By then, you've already internalized the new normal. Let's calculate the actual hidden inflation from shrinkflation. Because when you see the numbers, you'll realize the official inflation rate is complete fiction. We're going to look at 15 common grocery items, compare their sizes from 2019 to 2025, and calculate the real per-unit price increase. Then we'll compare that to what the government says inflation was. The gap will shock you. Cheerios cereal, 2019, 19 ounces for $8.99. That's 47 cents per ounce. 2025, 16 ounces for $8.99. That's 56 cents per ounce. That's a 19% increase in per ounce cost. But the price didn't change. So the government's inflation calculation doesn't capture this. They see $8.99 in 2019 and $8.99 in 2025 and record zero inflation on cereal, Gatorade, 2019 32-ounce bottle for $1.79. That's 5.6 cents per ounce. 2025, 28-ounce bottle for $1.79. That's 6.4 cents per ounce. 14% increase in per ounce cost. Zero recorded inflation. Toilet paper. This one is egregious. 2019, Charmin Ultra Strong, 18 rolls, 425 sheets per roll, $16.99. That's 7,650 total sheets, 0.22 cents per sheet. 2025, same product, same price, 18 rolls, 312 sheets per roll. That's 5,616 total sheets, 0.30 cents per sheet. That's a 36% increase in per sheet cost. Zero recorded inflation because the package still says 18 rolls. For $16.99, Doritos, 2019 14.5-ounce bag, $3.99. 27.5 cents per ounce. 2025, 9.75-ounce bag, $3.99. 41 cents per ounce. That's a 49% increase. Almost 50%. You're paying half again as much per ounce, and the price tag on the shelf looks the same. Orange juice. 2019, 64-ounce container, $4.49. 7 cents per ounce. 2025, 52-ounce container, $4.49. 8.6 cents per ounce. 23% increase. Zero recorded inflation. Let's keep going. Coffee creamers went from 32 ounces to 28, 18% increase per ounce. Yogurt cups went from 6 ounces to 5.3, 13% increase. Ice cream went from 16 ounces to 14, 14% increase. Bacon went from 16 ounces to 12, 33% increase. Paper towels, same sheets per roll scam as toilet paper, 38% increase per sheet. Dish soap, 42 ounces to 36, 16% increase. Peanut butter, 18 ounces to 16, 12.5% increase. Mayo, 30 ounces to 28, 7% increase. Laundry detergent, 150 ounces to 128, 17% increase. Let's average these 15 products. The average per unit price increase due to shrinkflation is 23%. These are staple items that most households buy regularly. 23% real price increase. Now let's look at what the government says inflation was from 2019 to 2025. According to the Consumer Price Index, cumulative inflation on food at home was about 25%. Sounds close, right? But here's the scam. The CPI captured the price increases that companies actually raised. The products that went from $3.49 to $4.25. But it missed most of the shrinkflation, because CPI tracks price per item, not price per ounce. So the real inflation is the CPI number plus the shrinkflation number. If official inflation is 25% and hidden shrinkflation is another 23%, the real inflation you're experiencing is 48%. Your groceries cost 48% more than they did in 2019, not the 25% the government claims, 48%. Let's say you spent $300 per week on groceries in 2019. CPI would say you should be spending $375 now. But with shrinkflation, you're actually spending $444. You're paying $69 more per week than the official inflation rate suggests. That's $3,600 per year in hidden inflation. And it's worse for some products than others. Snacks and processed foods are the worst. Paper goods are terrible. Fresh produce is less affected because you buy by weight, so shrinkflation is harder to hide. But anything in a package is fair game. And the companies coordinate. When one cereal company shrinks their box, competitors quickly follow. Nobody wants to be the expensive one charging $10.50 when everyone else is at $8.99 for a smaller box. So they all shrink together. Here's the formula for calculating your personal shrinkflation impact. Take your grocery receipt. For each packaged good, look up what size it was 5 years ago. Calculate the per unit cost then versus now. Average the increase. That's your hidden inflation rate. For most families, it's 20 to 30% on top of official inflation. And nobody is compensating you for it. Your wages might have gotten a 3% annual raise to keep up with official inflation. But real inflation, including shrinkflation, is running 7 to 10%. You're losing 4 to 7% of purchasing power every year. Over 5 years, that's 20 to 35%. You're not imagining that you feel poorer. You are poorer. So why do companies shrink products instead of just raising prices? If a box of cereal costs more to produce, why not just charge more? Because consumer psychology, and because inflation reporting, and because price wars. Let me break down the system that makes shrinkflation the optimal corporate strategy, even though it's fundamentally dishonest. First, consumer psychology. Studies show that consumers are more price-sensitive than unit price-sensitive. Meaning, you remember that Cheerios costs $8.99. You don't remember it's 19 ounces. When you're in the store, you look at the price tag. If it's still $8.99, your brain says, same price as last time. This is fine. You don't check the ounce count every time. Maybe you don't check it ever. The companies know this. They've done the research. Raising the price from $8.99 to $10.34 causes 17% sales drop. Shrinking the size from 19 to 16 ounces causes 2% sales drop. Same profit margin increase, wildly different consumer reaction, so they shrink. Second, inflation optics. Companies are terrified of being blamed for inflation. If Kellogg's raises cereal prices by 20%, they get news articles about corporate greed. Politicians call them to testify. Consumers boycott. But if they shrink the box by 20%, nobody notices except the people who buy it. And those people think they're crazy, or they blame inflation generally, without targeting Kellogg's specifically. Shrinkflation is inflation without the PR damage. It's invisible price gouging. Third, CPI manipulation. The government calculates inflation using the Consumer Price Index. CPI tracks prices of a basket of goods, but it doesn't track size changes very well. When a product shrinks, CPI is supposed to adjust for quality change, but in practice, this is inconsistent. Many shrinkflations don't get caught, so companies can raise real prices without it showing up in CPI. This benefits them because if inflation looks lower, the Federal Reserve keeps interest rates lower, which is good for corporate borrowing. And workers demand smaller raises if they think inflation is 3% instead of 7%. Shrinkflation suppresses both official inflation numbers and wage growth demands. Fourth, competitive pressure. If one company raises prices and competitors don't, they lose market share. But if everyone shrinks together, nobody loses share. It's tacit collusion. Not illegal collusion where they meet in a room and agree, but observed behavior coordination. General Mills shrinks Cheerios. Kellogg's sees sales data showing consumers didn't revolt. Kellogg's shrinks Corn Flakes. Post sees the same. Post shrinks their cereal. Within a year, every cereal box on the shelf is 15 to 20% smaller. Nobody gained or lost market share. Everyone increased profit margins. This is how oligopolies work. A handful of companies own most brands in each category. They watch each other and mimic. Explicit collusion would be illegal. This is just competitive market dynamics, except it screws consumers. Fifth, retailer complicity. Grocery stores know about shrinkflation. They see the invoices. They know the size changed. But they don't tell you. Why not? Because they're in on it. Retailers make money per transaction and per item sold. If the size shrinks and you have to buy more units to get the same amount, they make more money. Their shelf tags show the price. Sometimes they show price per ounce, but that's in tiny print. The big number is the package price. And they organize the shelf to make comparison shopping hard. Different brands have different size conventions. One is 16 ounces, one is 14.5, one is 13. You can't quickly math out which is cheaper per ounce while standing in the aisle. That's intentional. Friction prevents price comparison. Sixth, regulatory failure. The FDA and FTC are supposed to protect consumers from deceptive practices. Shrinkflation arguably is deceptive. The package is designed to hide the size reduction, but regulations are weak. Companies just have to list the ounces somewhere on the package. They do, in small print. That's technically compliance. But it's not honest communication. An honest company would put a label on the front, new smaller size. Now 16 ounces was 19. They never do that. They redesign the package so it looks the same size with the new amount. Regulators could require front of package size change disclosure. They don't. Regulatory capture means the food industry has enough lobbying power to prevent rules that would help consumers. Seventh, profit margin pressure. Why do companies need to do this at all? Why not just accept lower margins if costs increase? Because of shareholder capitalism. Public companies are expected to increase earnings per share every quarter. Not maintain, increase. If your profit margin shrinks because costs went up, Wall Street punishes your stock. So executives have to find ways to maintain margins. They can cut costs, but there's a floor. Labor is already squeezed. Ingredients are commodity prices they can't control, so the lever they pull is price. But overt price increases are risky. Shrinkflation is safer. It maintains margins without consumer backlash. And executives are compensated with stock options. Keeping the stock price up is their personal financial incentive. Eighth, inflation as cover. When general inflation is running hot, companies use it as cover for excessive price increases. Real cost increases might be 5%. They shrink by 15%. They blame inflation. Consumers believe it. The profit margin expansion goes unnoticed. This is why shrinkflation accelerated in 2021 to 2023 when inflation spiked. Companies saw opportunity to increase margins under the guise of inflation. Analysis shows corporate profit margins hit 70-year highs during this period. Not because their costs increased more than sales. Because sales increased more than costs. They overcorrected on pricing and kept the extra. The system is designed to hide price increases from you, suppress official inflation reporting, and maximize corporate profits. Shrinkflation is a feature, not a bug. It's the optimal strategy in an oligopolistic market with weak regulation and shareholder pressure for constant growth. And you're the one paying for it. So companies are shrinking products, you're paying hidden inflation. The government is underreporting it, and retailers are complicit. What do you actually do? Because I'm not going to tell you to just accept it. There are strategies to fight back. And there are things we need to demand collectively. Individual strategies first. Become a per-unit price shopper. Every grocery store shelf has a price tag with two numbers. The item price and the per-unit price. Usually it's price per ounce or per pound. That small print is your weapon. Ignore the item price. Only look at per-unit price. This forces you to actually compare. If brand A is 16 ounces for $8.99, that's 56 cents per ounce. Brand B is 14 ounces for $7.99, that's 57 cents per ounce. Brand A is cheaper despite higher item price. Shrinkflation makes item prices meaningless. Only per-unit prices matter. Take a photo of the product you buy with the ounces visible. Next time you shop, check if it shrunk. If it did, calculate the per-unit increase and decide if you're willing to pay it. This makes shrinkflation visible to you. Awareness prevents the companies from getting away with it unnoticed. Switch to store brands. National brands shrink more aggressively than store brands. Kroger or Walmart or Costco brand products are typically 10 to 30% cheaper per unit than name brands. And they shrink less frequently because store brands are a tool retailers use to compete on value. If Cheerios shrinks but Kroger's Toasted Oats doesn't, you have a clear, cheaper option. Buy in bulk when possible. Shrinkflation is most aggressive on small packages. The individual yogurt cup shrinks from 6 ounces to 5.3. But the 32-ounce tub is still 32 ounces. Bigger packages shrink less because the unit price-conscious buyers typically buy bulk. Companies can't get away with shrinking the bulk sizes as easily. So buy the biggest package you can use before it expires. Shop at stores that focus on value. Aldi and Costco are the most resistant to shrinkflation because their business model is low prices. They can't play games with sizing because their customers shop on per unit price. Regular grocery stores have more shrinkflation because they cater to convenience shoppers who don't check unit prices. Vote with your feet. Reward the stores that don't play shrinkflation games. Make substitutes. Shrinkflation is worst on processed foods and snacks. Chips, cookies, crackers, candy, all heavily shrunk. These are also the least healthy foods. If you shift toward fresh produce, meat, dairy, eggs, you encounter less shrinkflation because those are sold by weight. It's harder to hide an 8-ounce apple. An 8-ounce apple is an 8-ounce apple. But a family-sized chip bag can shrink from 16 ounces to 12 and you might not notice. Complain. If a product you've been buying shrinks, contact the company. Tell them you noticed. Tell them you're switching brands because of it. Companies track complaints. If enough people complain about a specific shrinkflation, they might reverse it. Probably not, but it's worth trying. At minimum, it makes the issue visible internally. Use social media. When you notice a shrinkflation, post about it. Take a photo of the old and new package. Calculate the per unit increase. Tag the company. Public shaming sometimes works. And it warns other consumers. Shrinkflation only works if it's invisible. Make it visible. Now collective action. Because individual consumer choices don't fix systemic problems. We need regulatory change. 1. Require front of package size change disclosure. If a company shrinks a product, they should be required to put a label on the front for 12 months. New size, 16 ounces, previous size, 19 ounces. This would make shrinkflation visible at the point of sale. Companies would have to choose between visible shrinkage or honest price increases. Either way, you'd know what's happening. 2. Improve CPI methodology. The Bureau of Labor Statistics should track per unit prices, not just item prices. When Cheerios goes from 19 ounces to 16 at the same price, that should be recorded as a 19% price increase in CPI. Currently, it's often missed. Better tracking would make official inflation numbers honest. This would lead to higher Social Security adjustments, higher wage demands, and more political pressure to address inflation. 3. Ban deceptive packaging. The slack fill in chip bags, the thicker plastic liners in cereal boxes, the larger cardboard tubes in toilet paper, all of these are designed to make shrunk products look normal-sized. This should be illegal. Packages should be sized to their contents with minimal empty space. If a chip bag is 60% air, that's deceptive. Mandate maximum air ratios. 4. Require unit price labels to be as prominent as item prices. Currently, per unit price is tiny print. Make it large print, same size as item price. Force consumers to see both numbers. This would empower comparison shopping and punish companies that shrink. 5. Strengthen FTC enforcement on deceptive practices. Shrinkflation combined with same-sized packaging is arguably deceptive trade practice. The FTC should investigate and fine companies that do this. Not ban shrinking, but ban hiding the shrink. If you shrink it, you have to make it obvious. 6. Break up food oligopolies. The reason companies can all shrink together is because there are only a few companies per category. General Mills, Kellogg's, Post, and Quaker own nearly all cereal. Frito-Lay and Utz own most chips. When there are only 4 players, they can coordinate without explicit collusion. If there were 50 cereal companies, shrinkflation coordination would be impossible. Antitrust enforcement to break up food conglomerates would increase competition and reduce shrinkflation. 7. Vote for politicians who acknowledge real inflation. If a politician quotes the 3% CPI number and ignores shrinkflation, they're either ignorant or lying. Demand politicians acknowledge the real inflation you're experiencing. Demand policies that address it. This could mean price controls on staples, windfall profit taxes on food companies during inflation, or public option grocery stores. Here's what I need you to understand. Emily's grocery bill went up $120 per week. Not because she's buying more or buying premium brands. Because the size is shrunk, the bread is smaller, the milk is smaller, the peanut butter is smaller. She's buying more units to get the same amount of food. This is hidden inflation. It's not captured in official statistics. It's not compensated in your wages. You're just getting poorer, and the companies are getting richer. That cereal box that went from 19 to 16 ounces represents a 19% price increase that nobody reported as a price increase. Multiply that across everything you buy, and you're experiencing 40 to 50% inflation, while the government says it's 25. This isn't conspiracy theory. This is documented shrinkage you can verify by looking at packages. Companies admit they do this. They call it price pack architecture. That's corporate speak for we're shrinking stuff to raise prices without you noticing. You're not imagining that your grocery budget doesn't stretch as far. You're not bad at shopping. You're not wasteful. The product amounts have literally decreased while prices stayed the same. That's a price increase. And it's been happening aggressively for 5 years. If you feel like you're running out of things faster, buying more frequently, spending more for the same cart of food, you're right. You're experiencing shrinkflation. And the only way it stops is if we collectively refuse to accept it. Check unit prices every time. Switch brands when things shrink. Complain loudly. Shame companies publicly. Demand regulatory change. Individual vigilance plus collective action is the only combination that works. Companies will keep doing this as long as it's profitable and invisible. Make it visible. Make it costly. Force them to raise prices honestly instead of shrinking portions dishonestly. You deserve to know what you're paying for. You deserve honest pricing. You deserve packages that aren't designed to deceive you. The grocery store is lying to you with shrinkflation. Now you know how. Now you know why. Now fight back. Check those unit prices. Call out the shrinkage. Demand better. You're not imagining it. You're being robbed in slow motion. And it's time to make it stop. I'll see you in the next one.